you have this character who is known by very many people, and even somebody got the tattoo, right?
Oh yeah, lots of Pam tattoos out there.
Like, that's almost cooler than anything, that somebody has your character tattooed. I mean, weird.
Yeah, weird.
But
especially when they like lift up their skirt and show you their whole thigh, and you're like, oh my God.
Our guest today is Amber Nash. Amber Nash is an amazing creative who has done a variety of different things, most notably playing the character Pam on the hit animated show Archer. Amber was such a fun guest. We talked about all different types of things. She is currently has a podcast which is called Rephrasing, an Archer Rewatch podcast. She also has a book out called Improv for Couples, which I just got a copy of, which is so fun, which teaches couples how to utilize improv to have a lot more fun in their relationship. So we talked about all kinds of stuff in this episode. I had a blast. I hope you enjoy it. Here you are, Amber Nash.
That's right.
So we were just talking, and you asked what the rating was for the show. So you were just trying to figure out like how much profanity you could use throughout the show.
I genuinely need to ask whenever I do a show, an appearance, a podcast, because I'm known for my dirty humor, but sometimes that's not always welcome in the situation, or needed, or necessary.
Right.
So it's good to know if people want that from me. If they don't, are your parents listening? Are your kids listening? You know.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't think my kids are.
Okay.
They're 5 and 8.
Okay, good.
So have you always been known for having a foul mouth?
I have. I think when I was a kid, I was always I was kind of temperamental, so I'd get like really irritated, and then that kind of spun into comedy, and that was my outlet. And when I started doing comedy, I started doing it at Dad's Garage in Atlanta, and it is kind of known for being a little, you know, I don't want to say sketchy because we don't do sketch. It's known for being a little, you know, on the fringe.
Right.
And so our comedy there is pretty adult and pretty pushing the boundaries, and can get dirty, but it's earned. So it's not just dirty for dirty's sake.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I was just talking with someone about that though the other day, because like I said, so I have a 5 and an 8-year-old, right? And inevitably there comes a time where they drop the perfect F-bomb, right?
Like they use it the perfect way?
They use it, yeah. And I think it was just like oh fuck.
Yeah.
And like it just came out, and I was like, oh my God, my child just said that. But they said it so perfectly, you know, where I was like, it's the right word.
Yeah, you needed to use it.
Yeah, and there really isn't anything that can substitute it effectively.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right? So, but that is, yeah. And then it's like then you're trying to talk to them. Oh, because I was showing her an audition of one of my actors. And she goes, I want to watch this. And I say, well, they say some bad words. She goes, I know, Daddy, I know bad words. And then it's interesting, like, how to explain this, because you're gonna use these eventually, I think, unless like society changes for some reason. We don't curse. But try to explain like how it's okay, but you just need to pick and choose. Like even you, like what you said, it needs to be earned.
Yeah,
you know.
Totally.
But so like as a child, were you just dropping profanities everywhere?
Yeah, I grew up with an older sister, and she was 7 years older than me, so it's not like 2 years older than me. You know, like she was quite a bit older than me. So I think I was probably hearing things from her. And my family is just like, they're very conservative, and so I don't think they were cursing a lot in earshot on purpose. But, you know, when my dad he was always in the garage working on cars, and he'd get pissed about something, everybody'd hear about it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess just fiery. A little bit of people getting pissed a lot and letting it out with punching things and saying curse words.
Yeah. What I like though is your appearance. It doesn't, like, if somebody just saw you, I would think like sweet,
Yeah.
like very, and maybe that also has something to do with it.
Interesting.
It kind of works for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're just, I don't know, you seem like I would cast you as like just looking at you, there's a sweetness there.
Yeah. Interesting. That's always so interesting to hear when you meet somebody that has met this, like we've just met very recently. So it's
Right.
like there's nothing, you don't know anything else about me. So that's so interesting. I love stuff like that.
I know,
Getting
huh?
people's vibes. It's like
Yeah.
Sam Christensen stuff. Did you ever work with Sam Christensen?
I'm aware of Sam,
Yeah.
and I know about him,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think he's one of the first acting coaches, but he's much more than a coach, right? He's almost like
Yeah.
because he talks so much about the business side and really strategizing your everything.
Yeah, and very much into essences and like what your, like the first exercise I did in one of his workshops was you first meet with your group, your class that you're going to be with for a couple days, and nobody talks. And the first thing you do is you go sit down, and we all look at you like you're sitting in a waiting room for a doctor's office, and we're just checking off words that we think apply to you, just based on what we see, because
Yeah.
that's what casting directors have to do all the time.
Yeah.
And it was so illuminating, because you are like, I know who I am, and I know what I think I'm projecting, but then when you see what you actually are projecting, and sometimes you don't want it to be that, but that's what it is, and then learning to lean into that is like so powerful.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, if you think about life, like when you can lean into your essence.
Yeah.
But of course, in the acting world, you have to, right? I mean, if you're an accountant, you can kind of avoid your essence
Yeah,
in your
right,
work.
totally.
But if you are an actor, you have to. I tell my actors, we were actually, I mentioned to you, I'm in the midst of camp season, right? And so one of the things I said to him, I said, okay, well, what is acting? Let's talk about what acting
Yeah.
is, and their definition of acting was really interesting, that we all kind of curated.
Yeah.
But one of the components was embracing your essence. And so I guess it's tricky though too, because like you were saying, it's like, what is my essence?
Yeah.
Because my essence is what it is, but it's also what it's being perceived as.
Right, especially as a young person, like to tackle that question as a young person, like I didn't think about that question until I was in my least probably late 20s, early 30s. So it's like,
Right.
whoa, to have a handle on it then?
Right.
It's pretty powerful.
It's cool stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, speaking of your acting essence, I always like to learn a little bit about like how you came into this creative world, because as you mentioned, we just recently met, where we went to the telepathy tapes thing,
Yes, so
right?
cool. Yeah.
Which was really fun.
Yeah.
And you were introduced to me through our mutual friend Caroline Slaughter, who that episode actually just launched today. And she was our first guest for this new season.
Great.
And she was like, you need to interview Amber.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the journey of Amber Nash from, a lot of profanities as a young child to then actually getting to do it through an animated character.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I didn't have a lot of friends in school. Like I wasn't fitting in. And I was like, what's the deal here? And then I made some kids laugh one time. And I was like, oh, okay, this is how I make friends, because I'm not the popular kid. I'm not the athletic kid. I'm not the smartest kid in the class, but I am funny. And so if I could make other kids laugh, then they wanted to be around me. And that was probably like third or fourth grade that I had this realization. And I would like do shows on the playground. And like I had a character. This is so the 80s. Like I had a character called Escaped Convict, because that's the things I'm hearing on the news, right? So I would play an escaped convict on the playground to terrorize the kids, and they thought it was hilarious. And so then I was like, comedy is kind of where it's at. And so I never, like, my family isn't an artistic family. Like being a performer, going to see theater, even listening to music, like wasn't a lot of what happened in my house, like very blue collar, like regular suburban people. And so it was never crossed my mind that performance was a career path. And then in high school, I discovered improv because my family moved from Georgia to Glendale, California.
Oh, wow.
And in Glendale, I had a theater teacher that I was like, oh, okay, these are people that are performers, right? Like actual performers. We're in California now. And the improv class was really good. And I was like, this is cool. I've never heard of this before. And it like really, like it invigorated me. Like it was what like captured my imagination, anything's possible. And so I loved doing theater. And then I moved back to Georgia and I still did theater, even though like I was in a group of people and in a school where it was like sports is way more valued than arts, right?
Right.
And then I was like, you know what, that's not a career path, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which I thought was just like the straight-laced, not a performer job path. So I got a degree in psychology, and while I was in college, a friend of mine was like, have you been to Whole World Theater, which is still around today? It's in Midtown. And I was like, no, what is it? And they're like, it's improv. And I was like, improv? Okay, I remember that from high school and really loving it. And so he's like, you got to go see a show. And I went and saw a show, and I was like, this is so cool. Because I was seeing a theatrical production that wasn't costumes and lights and people saying lines. It was two guys pretending that they were trapped in a trash can, and one of them was a Band-Aid that was stuck to the bottom of this trash can and had been there for years, and the other one was like a new guy that had just gotten there, and he was like a used Q-tip. And I was like, mind blown. Like, anything's possible in this world, right? And so it really, like, I was like, this is it. So I took some classes, but all along I was like, I'm not going to do this as a profession. I was getting my degree in psychology. I was going to be a counselor, and I did end up counseling teenagers for a while.
Wow.
And so I was like down that path of being like a social worker, basically. And then I got a job for the state of Georgia working with teenagers, doing, they were teenagers that would get sent by a judge to a therapeutic wilderness camp. And so these weren't like kids that were, you know, thought of as good kids. They were bad kids. And so I lived with them at this facility in the wilderness, and that was my real job after college. And all along I was taking classes and doing improv and like trying to get on stage like here and there in shows. And then I'd worked at the camp for about 3 years, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. Like, I'm aging like 10 years a month working here. I was just like, I'd seen it all, you know?
Wow.
And I was like, could I make a living as a performer? And I'd never been trained. I didn't have any acting training. Really, the only training I had was improv training. And I worked at Dad's Garage, where I'm still at. And I was like, maybe I could just make a gig life, you know, like get paid to teach here, get paid to do a gig here. Just, can I cobble that together? And I was lucky enough, because I'd just come off of working with kids, to get a job as the education director at Dad's Garage. The position had never existed before, and they were like, we want to start getting stuff going. We want to do kids camps. We want to do outreach with high schools. And I was like, I know about all that stuff. And so that's how I was able to make the leap. And then I did that for a while. And through working at Dad's Garage, I met the guys that made Archer, because they were making cartoons for Adult Swim in East Atlanta at a house down the street from our theater, and they'd come see shows. And one of the guys that worked with them that was an animator was one of our improvisers. And so he was at the theater, so they'd come see him do a show, and they'd see some of the other people, and then they'd be like, oh, we need somebody to do a teenage girl's voice. What about that girl that was on stage with you the other night? And so then that's how that kind of all started.
Wow.
Yeah.
So obviously for you, it's so interesting that I find it fascinating that you didn't have this thing where like, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be a performer. That wasn't, it was sort of, you kind of just allowed that to happen a little bit. You weren't like forcing that at all.
No.
I wonder how much of your psychology, the psychology component, came into play with all of this. It had to have, right? With this understanding of psychology, because I mean, if you think about, I was just listening to a podcast with this guy who's a mentalist. Do you know about this, about mentalists?
Are mentalists like? Tell me more.
It's basically where it's like they can guess things. I don't even know if it's guessing it,
right,
based on like tells, like the things you're doing,
right? Okay,
but they could guess like your PIN code, like based on just with pauses you're taking and questions I'm asking.
Okay,
like so it's psychology in its own weird way, but I've always thought that psychology, or even so much of what I do when I'm teaching actors, albeit I am not proficient in any of this, but it's thinking about things like neuroscience or thinking about things from a psychological perspective, and taking that approach to acting.
Yeah.
And I would imagine all of the time you spent training to be a counselor, and understanding psychology probably came into play quite a bit when you're having to improv.
Totally. Because I think that, for one thing, I think that building a character is a character's psychology, right? So like just kind of understanding what makes a person's personality to understand that, then you can understand what makes a character if you're creating one, right? Or trying to understand one that somebody else has created. And so for sure, I think that played a lot into when I was trying to understand what characters would do and trying to understand characters. But then also, as an improviser in particular, the more you know about any subject, the more you can talk about just anything. And so, like, I reference things that I consume in my regular life through television or whatever show I'm watching or something that's on the news in my improv, because specificity is like what makes comedy interesting. And so the more specifics you can have about any topic, the more interesting it's going to become, and then hopefully the funnier. So I think knowing a lot about psychology, then I can dive into that when there's a window to be like, oh, maybe this would be a psychology path I could go down here.
Yeah. We were just talking about that at camp today, actually, about specificity and how important it is, and how, and again, this is what I love about, so one of the primary reasons I started this podcast was because I feel like what we do as creatives is so relevant to everything in life. Yeah. And specificity, the example I was giving to them was, if I said to you, oh, come out to my camp in California, it's off of the 101 freeway. And then you say, okay, well, where? Oh, it's near the beach. Okay, where? And, okay, what's the best way to find it? Well, you got to give us an address. And I said, well, what if you gave an address to your goals? Like, what if you gave a specific address to your goals? And I think it's just a way of just giving yourself a North Star, you know? Now, I do think that does seem almost a little bit contradictory, though, to your path in a way. But then you kind of got to wonder, maybe you kind of did have this North Star in your head or in your intuitive mind.
Yeah.
That that was guiding you, even though you maybe didn't know it.
Totally. Absolutely. And just to have like an understanding of people, and then because when you work in the arts, you deal with a lot of interesting people, and that is a blessing, but can also be hard sometimes. And so to understand people's psychology and understand where people are coming from definitely helped me navigate relationships and, you know, managing people or working with artists that are maybe having a tough time and it's hard to connect with them necessarily. And so, yeah. Does that answer? Got off track.
No, totally. No, no, there's no track.
Okay, good.
You literally can't go off track here. We're just like in space, and we're just seeing, you know, where we go next. Speaking of space, have you ever seen Interstellar?
Wait, which one is that? That's
Matthew McConaughey and
yes.
and Hathaway.
Yeah.
And Donald Sutherland. That movie blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it's like 10 years old or something, 11 years old, but it
Yeah.
blew my mind. But just thinking about space and all of it, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
But okay, so now you're at Dad's Garage,
Yeah.
and this Archer opportunity just kind of tethers into your existence through these people. But had you ever done any voice stuff?
Not really. So before Archer came along, when I met these guys, they were making a show called C-Lab 2021.
Oh, yeah.
For Adult Swim.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they were making it for Adult Swim, and they had done some other stuff before that, but that was kind of their big show they were working on. And then they were going to have another show, and they needed a teenage girl. And I wasn't right for it, because at the time I was smoking like a pack of Newports a day.
Newports? Look good for you. Just getting out. I mean, if you're going to do it,
might as well go all the way.
All the way.
And so I was like, I can't have sounded like a 16-year-old.
I love the fact that you're just like, it's so funny that, like, again, just looking at you and then thinking about just this profanity and Newports, and you're just like, it's just funny. It's
I've lived a lot of lives.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. So I wasn't right for that role, and they ended up taking somebody else from the theater, but they were like, they needed somebody to come in and quickly do something. And so I was like, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And I drove over to this house in East Atlanta, and I ended up recording something else, and then the character changed, and I ended up getting the role. So I'd done like a little small things with these guys when they were making stuff for Adult Swim.
Okay.
Then that show got canceled after 2 seasons. The show is Frisky Dingo, which was that was the show they made after they made C-Lab 2021 that I was on for 2 seasons.
Got it.
Then it got canceled, and the creator of Archer went on a trip, like a pilgrimage through Spain. like a walking thing.
Okay.
And came up
Oh,
with
the
the
Camino
idea.
de Santiago?
Yes, exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what he did.
Yeah.
He'd done it before, or maybe this was his first time, but the idea of the show of Archer came to him, and he came.
That's so interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
That seems to happen a lot.
Yeah.
Where people go on these like long like walks.
Because you've got nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, you're just thinking, and you're especially creative people, allowing your mind to not be like, you know, day-to-day work and life and television and all that stuff. You're just open, and
Yeah, but
stuff comes to you.
that's something that like have you ever like thought really like about that? How
No.
about like why that seems, I mean, yes, it makes sense, right? Your mind is kind of clear. It's not really,
Yeah.
but it seems to happen a lot. Like Albert
Yeah.
Einstein, like supposedly would
Yeah.
always go for these walks, and then, you know, these ideas would come. Steve
Yeah.
Jobs talked about it.
Like being in nature, I think, is more powerful than we always know day to day in our lives. Just being outside and allowing a connection to the ground and the universe in that way probably has something to do with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think about that much?
Not anymore. When I used to live in the wilderness with kids, I thought about it a lot. And now I don't. I'm never outside anymore, which is so tragic. Like, I really do need to be outside more.
You should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need it. I think we all need it.
Yeah, I
like,
do
you know,
too.
we live these regular, like, lives that are inside and in our car and in air conditioning, especially in the South. And it's just like, we're never outside.
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's
Except for to walk your dog.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Cool thing about these camps, they're outside most of the time.
Really? That's great, especially
Yeah.
for arts kids.
Yeah, yeah.
My husband always says he is Canadian and his family is Irish, and he's had a life in the theater, and he says those three things have attributed to his extreme pale skin. He's like being Canadian, Irish, and living in a theater, a dark theater, his
Yeah.
whole adult life.
Yeah.
So like he bursts into flames like a vampire when he's in the sun.
Oh. Well, yeah. There's a lot of pale people out there, man.
Yeah. So
Okay, Camino de Santiago.
Yes.
So he's doing this walk. He comes up with the idea of Archer.
yes, and then he comes back. They're pitching it around. Nobody's biting. And then FX at the time was like fairly, you know, they were kind of a new network and they were doing cool stuff. Like Nip Tuck, I think, was one of their big
Oh my
shows
gosh.
back then.
Yeah. Why can't Ryan Murphy.
Oh, Ryan Murphy. Yeah. Oh, right. That's Ryan
That's
Murphy.
Ryan Murphy.
Before we all knew who Ryan Murphy was.
Glee.
Yeah.
And look at that. Nip Tuck, which for people who haven't seen that show is my wife and I was one of our favorite shows. We binged it. Then he goes to Glee, and then
Yeah.
American Horror Story.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about just a wild combination. Yeah, what a brilliant
Have you
guy.
watched Dr. Odyssey?
No.
Oh my God, it's his new network show. It's like NBC.
Okay.
And it is fantastic. It's like
Okay.
it's delightfully like trashy.
Okay.
In the best way. It's
love
so
it.
much fun.
That's
my
like
God, I
you.
love it. Exactly. Delightfully
Delightfully
trashy. Oh my God, I'm gonna get that on a t-shirt.
I love that. Okay, well, and speaking of delightfully trashy, I mean, obviously your character on Archer. Okay, so I want to get more into that, and because it's interesting too, because a show like that, it's such a unique thing to have an animated show that is very raw, and obviously an adult animated show.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's get back to that. So then
Okay.
he comes up with this idea. So then FX says, okay.
Yeah, FX says okay.
Yep.
They had a bunch of famous people. They were like, okay, we got Aisha Tyler, we got Chris Parnell, we got John Benjamin, Judy Greer. So they have all these famous people. And then I don't know, honestly, I'm just like, I don't know how I got on this show. I'd worked with them. They knew me. Pam was one of the main characters, but I don't think she was they weren't planning on her staying around a long time. And when I recorded the pilot, because they were literally like, they had to have wanted somebody else and they couldn't get them, and then I just showed up and recorded it.
This is what you believe.
This is what I believe.
Okay.
But I'm assuming they had liked working with me, and they're like, you know, my voice was interesting enough for this character, and I recorded the pilot, and then when the show got a season, I still had to get network approval, and they were like, yeah, cool, it's fine, Amber's fine. And then through that, I was in every episode of the first season, but I wasn't in the opening credits yet. And then I was still just a gigging actor working at Dad's Garage as the education director, like just trying to scrape by and make enough money to survive. And Second City called me and offered me a job working on a cruise ship.
Okay.
And I was going to be gone for 4 months at sea. And so I called the executive producer of Archer, and I was like, hey, man, I got this job. I'm going to be at sea for four months. And he's like, no, you're not. You're on a television show. And I was like, well, dude, I can't make enough money to pay my bills. So you got to figure something out. And he's like, I'll call you right back. And he calls me back, and he's like, okay, if you don't go on this cruise ship, I will put you in the opening credits next season, and you'll get a raise. I was like, cool. So that's how I ended up in the opening credits.
That's awesome.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
That would have been an interesting job to be doing Second City. And for people that don't know, it's like one of the biggest improv sketch comedy, like them and Groundlings are sort of the
and I got to do it in a smaller capacity, so I still got to have the experience, but I was only gone for a month as opposed to 4 months. And they're like, okay, a month is fine.
Got it. Okay, so you still did it.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
So then, and for people that don't know about the show Archer and Pam a little bit, you want to kind of give them a little bit of a breakdown?
Yeah. So the show of Archer is a show about a spy agency, and Archer is the main character, and he works for his mother, who is also a spy, and they have a very weird relationship that is love-hate, and there's lots of mommy issues going on. And then there's all these other people that work at the agency. One of them is his ex-girlfriend. She's now dating a different guy at the agency. So it's definitely like an office comedy that just happens to be at a spy agency. It's very adult, it's animated, but it's quite dirty, but it also, like I was saying before with the stuff we do at Dad's Garage, it's very smart.
Yeah.
So it's dirty, but it's earned and it's intelligent. And so those things balance each other out in a great way. So Pam, the character of Pam, she was in the beginning the director of HR at this spy agency, but is a terrible person. And so it's like there's no reason why this person should be in charge of human resources. And then throughout the 14th season, she has lots of different things that happen to her. She becomes a field agent for a little while. The whole agency becomes cocaine dealers for a short time. Like they just go through everything. There's seasons of the show where Archer is in a coma. And so there's 3 full seasons of the show that don't actually happen because they're happening in his brain. So it takes a lot of turns in the 14 seasons that it was on.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I think it's also really cool the fact that this got such a sort of like cult following. People just became, obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And I remember so what year did Archer come out?
So it started, the first episode of the first season aired in like 2009, but at the very end of the year. So most of the first season was in 2010.
Right, which is right when I moved here.
Yeah.
And so when you think about, too, the tax credits kicked in Georgia in 2008. Yes. So it really happened at that perfect time.
Yeah.
But then as it continued to grow, I think, obviously, at least I think, for a show to really sustain, I mean, it really comes down to the writing, and it comes down to the creatives who are involved with that. And it just seems like what you said. I mean, even this character of Pam, because if you just look at her, she kind of looks like a housewife.
Yeah, totally.
Right? You just look at, and then she opens her mouth.
And then you're like, oh my God.
Right, which is like you.
Yeah, it's totally. Yeah. That's so funny.
So when they created the Pam character, they already had it animated, but like you kind of just they already had this idea of Pam, right?
Yeah, so I had come in to record some DVD extras when those were a thing for Frisky Dingo. And they were like, hey, we want you to see something. And there was a monitor that had Pam's head on it. So they already knew what she looked like. And all the characters on Archer were created based off of real people. Oh. And so she was a woman. She still lives in Atlanta and owns a furniture store.
Get out of here.
Yeah. And so sometimes I'll see her and we'll be like, hey.
That's so fun. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so they had already created the character, and they had a line of mine from the previous show coming out of her mouth to see what my voice would look like with this character's head. And they're like, do you want to do this? And I was like, guys, I'm cashing these checks at the check cashing place. Like, I literally will do any job you give me. Yes, I want to do this. And that's how it all started.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
So then that journey has been quite a wild one, right? So I think I saw it said on IMDb you've done like 144 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of episodes of television.
Lot. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people taking in your voice.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I still today, like, the show's been done now. We've stopped producing it over a year ago, year and a half. And I'm still like, I still can't believe it all. You know, I still can't believe that I was on a show that was on TV for 14 years. That's insane.
That's insane.
That doesn't happen to anybody. You know, it's like
no one.
Yeah. So we really did, like, we came at the right time on the right network. You know, like the writing, like you said, like everything just kind of lined up in a way that was like, this is what people wanted for this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how at that time you were, it sounds like, struggling a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But yet you still were kind of moving in this path. Why do you ever wonder like why that happened? Do you ever wonder like how it happened that way?
Yeah, all the time. And like how it was me and not another person, and how, you know, of course. Yeah. And I don't know that, because a lot of times I was actually listening to NPR on the way over here, and somebody was talking about like imposter syndrome. And it's like, I think everybody deals with it, but I think artists and actors probably more than most.
Right.
You know, like, why me? Why am I the person that gets to be in this situation? And why did I get this show? And yeah, I think about it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's fun to think about that the word imposter syndrome, right, gets thrown around a lot. And I know I've felt that at times, but also I think it's fun to think about it from, instead of imposter syndrome, like more of a curiosity versus a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
You know, and like, how did this all come to be?
Yeah.
You know, because I think for you, it's interesting because it seems like all of these pieces just kind of slid in. And like, so like if you don't get the Second City thing, like what happens there?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like then you don't make that. And the fact that one call led then to you being top of show.
Yeah.
And then getting the bump.
Totally.
And you know, and
yeah.
But it did happen. And so tell me a little bit, like, what are some of the because I don't know much about this animated world. What, in terms of the amount of work that goes into each show, or what it was like versus what you thought it would be like.
Yeah.
Can you bring us into sort of the world of like the animated show?
And what the acting's like too. It's
Yeah.
like, because most of my experience was doing improv on stage in front of an audience.
Okay.
And so that set me up for things like developing a character voice, because when you're doing an improv show, you don't have costumes or anything to lean on, or props.
Yep.
So it's all in your embodiment
Hold on
and
one
your
second.
voice.
You have one little hair here.
Yeah, so you have that helps you create characters. And so that was something that helped me get to the animation part. Sorry, what was the question again?
What it was like to be,
to be a voice actor.
Yeah, a voice actor.
Yeah.
Right, and even the terminology, a voice actor.
Yeah.
Right, because that's something that my guess would be never in a million years where you're like, I think I'll probably be a voice actor.
Yeah, and people ask me all the time, they're like, well, how do you get into voice acting? And I was like, well, you have to be an actor first. You have to, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to be an eye surgeon, so I'm just going to start there. It's like, no, you still have to be a surgeon before you start doing surgery on eyes. You know what I mean? So I think it's similar. Like, you have to be an actor. So the thing that I had to learn was, when you're a voice actor, you don't have anything else. You don't have your body. You don't have your eyes. You're not even looking with at your scene partner. Like, you only have your voice. So one of the first things when I was just doing like radio commercials that I learned in the booth from a friend of mine was, he was like, I can hear that you're not moving around and that you have no expression on your face. So I'd stand behind a mic because I didn't want to hit something and make a noise, and I would just talk into the mic. And he's like, that is the worst thing you could possibly do. He's like, move around, do what you would do on stage, because you can hear that all in your voice, which I didn't know. I thought that what was coming out of my mouth was just the same no matter what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like, you can hear a smile on somebody's face, you know, like all those things. And so learning how to compress everything that you have as an actor into just what comes out of your mouth was a lot to learn, and I learned it all on the job. And one of the things that really, especially being a improviser that was used to doing scenes on stage with other people, I was like, I'm in this booth by myself. There's somebody on the other side of this window that's like the engineer and the director, but oftentimes you're not even doing scenes with them. You're not even reading the scenes. You're just doing your lines. And so I would look at my microphone and imagine that they were the person I was talking to. And so then that made everything come alive to me. So I was like, this is my scene partner, you know? And it was just some little hack that I had to create so that I could keep doing what I knew how to do on stage.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but I'm thinking back to when you talked about seeing that show at Dad's Garage where the person, what were they again? A
Band-Aid stuck to the trash can. Yeah.
And it's that same idea. Even when just now when you were looking at the microphone, you're like, and it's fun, right? Because you can look at the microphone in any kind of way you want, right? You can see like this thing.
Yes.
And so that was your little hack, your little trick. You're
Yep.
like, okay, this is my, and you're talking with the microphone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so tell me a little bit like in terms of like, how does that with an episode in terms of taping and how much time, like, are you doing multiple episodes at once? Are you like what is it?
Yeah.
What is it? I don't even. What does a year look like? For somebody who's doing that.
This is the best part. And whenever you tell an actor that hasn't done voice work what it's like, they're like, "You son of a bitch," because it is the best schedule. So for us. There was one writer that wrote all of Archer for the first 10 seasons. So he would write an episode, and it would take him 3 weeks. So we would only work every time there was an episode ready. So we would work. I tell people this all the time. In a year, I would work 8 months out of the year when we were in production. But in that 8 months, I would go in once every 6 weeks for 45 minutes. That's how much I worked. And it sounds amazing, but I also was like, I kind of miss working. Like, I want to go in and I want to go to work, you know? And so it was an incredible job because I didn't have to work very long hours. I didn't have to memorize lines. I didn't have to brush my hair. I didn't have to do hair and makeup. Like, I just walked in. And back when I used to smoke a pack of Newports a day, I'd have to like do some, so I'm smoking a cigarette. I can't believe I got a job voice acting. I'm driving to my record sessions, I'm smoking a Newport and drinking coffee, and then I show up and record my voice. Oh my God, the things I got away with. I would never do that now. But I would do like a few vocal warm-ups and be like, yeah, I'm fine. Walk in and record. Oh my God. And because I'm doing this podcast where we're rewatching it and talking about episodes, I'm listening to early seasons and I was like, you could tell I was a smoker back then.
Yeah.
Like you can hear it in my voice.
So you quit smoking in the midst of the series.
Yeah.
And then did you notice like that it changed, like your voice changed?
Yeah, like, I mean, I definitely had better voice health. That wasn't even something I'd even thought about as a term or something to even consider. But I was like, I'm getting older, and if I'm going to be doing this voice thing for a long time, I need to take care of my voice.
Yeah.
And so that was when I was like, okay, I got to get serious about this. And thankfully I did, because, the show was on for 14 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're working 45 minutes every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
What are you doing the other 5 weeks, 6 days, and 23 hours and 15 minutes?
I was good job with
Thank
math.
you. That was good math, right?
Good
It was
math.
a combination of weeks and hours and minutes.
Yeah. I was doing a lot of theater that didn't pay well. So that was a great thing, is that I was able to keep doing all the stuff I did at Dad's Garage. But now I had a job that actually paid me well. And so I was like, I can do this other theater thing. And so I did tons of stuff at Dad's. I traveled a lot. The other great thing about Archer, and I'm assuming other shows where you do voice work, is that I would be like, hey guys, I'm in Winnipeg. My husband's Canadian, and so we'd do like a lot of touring in Canada, and they'd be like, okay, we'll book a space for you in Winnipeg and you can record there. And so I traveled a ton with my husband and did a lot of theater and tried to get other projects off the ground and wrote, and my husband and I made a movie and all kinds of stuff. Nothing that paid well. So I was like, great, I'm really going to take my opportunity to do a bunch of stuff that doesn't pay me anything while I have this job that pays me well.
Yeah, that's what a gift that was.
Totally.
Okay, so in terms of this Archer journey, this journey with Pam, so because you're a voice actor, obviously nobody sees you, and so for a lot of people, I'm sure for a lot of the fans, they kind of figure out who's who, the actors. But that's such a different journey, I feel like, than an actor, just in terms of you have this character who is known by very many people, and even somebody got the tattoo, right?
Oh, yeah. Lots of Pam tattoos out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking with one of my staff, the wonderful Madeline,
Uh-huh.
and she was saying, like, I feel like that's almost, like, that's almost cooler than anything that somebody has your character tattooed. I mean, weird.
Yeah. Weird.
But
Especially when they like lift up their skirt and show you their whole thigh, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
I mean, that's such a wild thing.
Yeah.
Because it's you, but it's not.
Yeah.
But it is. I mean,
Yeah.
how does that work in terms of your connection with this character? Because it is, I don't know. It's just it's so different, because for most people, when if they're on a TV show for multiple seasons, it's like we get to know Kramer, or we get to know Joey on
Yeah.
Friends, Now, obviously who they are as an individual is different, but it is still them,
Yeah.
But yet with Pam, that's not the case.
Yeah.
So you kind of have this anonymity
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah.
but simultaneously have this character that is so well known by so many.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, or what has that been like with like these fans and these Uber fans and
Yeah.
that experience?
There's good and there's bad to it. Like, people, when they see me, they're like, ugh, they're kind of disappointed. They want Pam, right? And I remember too, like, being an actor in Atlanta, and like, I didn't have an agent in the beginning when this all started, and like was like working with different agencies, and they were like, ugh, they just like didn't know what to do with me, because they're like, you're known for this, but you don't look like that, and you're not presenting that way. And like, when Cameo came along, I was like, great, I can start making money doing cameos for people. But people don't want Amber doing a cameo. They want Pam doing a cameo, and I'm not Pam. So like, there's places where it really gets in the way, because people want something that I can't give them. But then there's other times where it's great, because like, I was at Comic-Con with the Archer cast, and like, Aisha Tyler is 6 feet tall and this gorgeous human being, and everybody knows who she is. And when she walks through a lobby, she gets mobbed, and I'm just like, no problem. So then there's things like that are great, so I can just kind of slide under the radar and people don't know. So it's and then it's weird too, because when the show ended, then like, Pam kind of ceased to exist in a way, which characters do when a show ends. But at least, like you said, like, at least they're still embodied in the person that played them, which is so odd to think about. I've never really thought about that before. But yeah, it's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of have you thought about like how you parlay Pam into the rest of your life? Because it is a character, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
How does that work? How
Yeah.
does that work for like for Amber? How does Pam tether into the rest of Amber's?
Because it's also
career?
like, I say a lot that I wish that I could be as like brave as Pam, or as ballsy as Pam, or as strong as Pam, like genuinely, like physically that strong. So it's kind of like a what would Pam do situation. But then also there's a weird thing where it's like, there's this weird thing where it's like, I started this podcast because I was like, what am I going to do next?
Right.
So I've got this Archer podcast, but then I was like, ooh, is that weird? Like, it felt like I didn't want to pick the bones of the one good job I've had. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, I love that. I'm proud of it. It was an incredible thing. I love that people love this character so much, but then it's like, how much is too much, or how much is enough? And I don't want it to be weird. And you know what I mean? So that was like all stuff that I thought about too, because it's like, is it time to just leave this character behind and do something different? But also, there's a point in which people are like, well, we don't want you to do anything different. We want you to keep doing this thing. And like, I feel like 14 years is like right at the spot where people are like, either you're going to be Flo and you're going to do this for the rest of your life, or you're not, and you're going to go do other stuff and you're going to be known for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, there's so much, like, even when there's a huge blessing like that, it can still be like, is that always good? Then are you kind of stuck doing this thing forever?
What do you think?
I think it's both, because like, when I I listened to the Office Ladies podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Because somebody was like, you should do an Archer Rewatch podcast. And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, just listen to this one and you'll see that it's not what you think it is.
Yeah.
It's not gross. It's them reliving the best years of their lives.
My wife loves it.
Yeah. And they're so lovely. They're just two lovely human beings that you want to hang out with. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, yeah, it's not gross. It's just like, it's just them telling people cool stories about what they did. And so I was like, okay. And so that made me feel differently about it. And so it is hard to kind of establish something that is mine for people, and not everybody wants that, and that's okay. Some people only want Pam, and that's fine. And then when there's Amber, they're checked out, and that's okay too. So it's like being okay with like I can't give everybody, and not everybody wants the same thing, and I can't give everybody what they want. So
yeah,
I've got to figure out what it is that I want.
What do you think it is? What do you want? Because you've been again you're. This character came to you, mm-hmm. and then this character ran mm-hmm. and ran and ran. Mm-hmm. I'm sure so much. I'm guessing they weren't thinking, "Oh, we're going to do this for 14 seasons," right? Yeah. I don't think anyone thinks that. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it did catch such fire,
yeah,
and you don't like what verbiage you said? You don't want to pick the bones.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was this thing that obviously connected with so many people. So you also don't necessarily just want to throw it away. I don't know. I don't know. It's a...
Yeah. Because it's like, I influenced the character of Pam, but the character of Pam also influenced me and changed the way I think about things. And like, I definitely incorporated some of her personality traits into me in my own way, like whether I knew it or not. And so I think it's finding, and it's still so new, like the show just stopped being made. So I'm still like in that gray area where it's like before and after, and now I'm right in between, So I think I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And doing it in a way that's like, that I'm comfortable with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so you got the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So right now we're making what we're calling season 0. Most rewatch podcasts start with episode 1 of the show and then watch all the way through. But the first season we're doing with just fan favorite episodes. And so each episode I've got one of the main cast members on, and they talk about their favorite episode. And so it can be an episode from season 4 or season 1 or season 14. And so there's 5 episodes out, and we've got 5 more to go in this first season. And we hope to continue to do it. But we're still like, it's hard. Making a podcast is hard.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yeah.
So we don't know what we don't know, and we're learning a lot as we go. And so it's been fun, but challenging, and learning so many new things making podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So outside of the podcast, what's on the horizon? What do you want to get into? Like and it's what's funny with you. It's almost like it almost feels as though that for you what's worked is not mm-hmm. really trying to control it and just kind of allowing it to happen.
Yeah. Which is hard because as I've gotten older, I'm more like, well, get on it, figure it out. What's next,
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's like, am I fighting the fate of what, like you said, like it's always been a little bit more like, hey, it just happens, which is great in theory if you can just be that guy that's just like, I'm just bumbling through life and cool shit's happening, you know what I mean? But I'm not that person. So I feel like, what I've always done, and honestly, in my career, everything that I've done that's cool wasn't a job that it was I made it happen. You know what I mean? Like doing stuff at Dad's is how I met these guys that made this show, and that's how I got on it. It's not because of casting and because I showed up and did an audition. Like I've booked very little ever in my career through just auditioning. It's always been me making projects or getting into this thing or meeting this person, And so I'm continuing to make shows and do weird shit at Dad's. My husband is a writer. He was the artistic director at Dad's Garage for a long time, for 10 years. But he's a writer, and he's an improviser also, and a stand-up. And so and a producer. He's a really great producer. But that's not the fun stuff, so he doesn't spread the word because he doesn't want more producing work.
Got it.
So we made a film a few years ago with Colin Mockery. It's a Christmas film. And so I think we want to do more of that, but it's hard and it's expensive and it takes a really long time.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book. I wrote an improv book.
Fun.
Yeah. So there's just like, lots of balls in the air and hoping that one will catch on or lead me down a path or, just always doing different things.
You're just always creating.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've been just consistently creating.
Yeah.
Because that was when you were talking about on the time when you weren't recording for Archer, which was the majority.
A lot of time.
of the time. That's like the best schedule. Like
It
there's
is.
the book, The 4-Hour Work Week, and
Yeah.
yours is like the 45-minute over 6-week work week. But you were always creating. It wasn't like you were just, it seems like you've just been consistently creating in one way or another.
Yeah.
And I do believe that there is something to that, to just consistently creating.
Yeah.
And not from a place where you feel like I have to keep creating, but creating because the act of creativity or the act of just creating allows us to kind of get into some kind of energetic, vibrational kind of realm.
Yeah.
Which then it's like, oh, okay, now I'm in a place where I'm open to these other creative things.
Totally.
Well, kind of going back to what we talked about with walking in nature, right? You're walking in nature, and it's almost like when you're doing that, you're opening up the vessel, so that the creativity can come through you. Rick Rubin talks about this a lot in the Creative Act, The Creative Act, A Way of Being. Wonderful book.
Okay.
Rick Rubin, huge music producer, like arguably the biggest in history. And it's a really cool book, though, but he talks about how like we're never creating anything. Like the creativity is just always going through us. We just need to be open to it.
Yes.
Robert Rodriguez, director who did everything from El Mariachi to Desperado to Spy Kids to Sin City, all of these amazing projects, he talks about it as well. And he talks about how we're never actually creating anything. We're just opening ourselves to be this vessel to the creativity.
Right.
And so I think if you're in this state of creativity, that if you're consistently in that place, it's almost like you're always open because you're in this place of creativity, right?
Yeah, totally.
And whether it's writing a book, doing a podcast, or whatever else it is, it seems like you've been in that place.
Yeah.
So you were open to it.
Yeah, and I always talking about how I grew up, and like for me to start saying even that I was an actor, like to say, like people are like, what do you do? And to say I'm an actor felt like, am I allowed to say this? Or to say like I'm an artist. And then once I got over that, and I am genuinely an artist, and I have been since I was born. I think artists are born and they're artists their whole lives, whether they know it or not. And once I was finally able to just be like, that's what I do, and I'm not ashamed of it, it's okay for me to say that, it is who I am, then it was like allowing myself to live in an artistic way. Like even just the way, and everybody's different, but like even just the way that I move through the world and see things and what my house is like, and like how I interact with people is like as an artist. And so allowing myself to have that was like one of the earliest things I did for myself, was to be able to be like, this is who you are, and that's an okay thing. And to allow that in, and then more came, Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
So, okay, so on the horizon, we've got a book on improv. And this is,
So it's actually a book, it's called Improv for Couples, and it's a book about improv games that are for couples to do, not for stage, not for performance, but just to connect and play and have fun and communicate. And
I love it.
Yeah, it's really great. I wrote it with a friend of mine, and he runs an improv theater in Charleston. And he had kind of dabbled with this idea in some workshops with couples during the pandemic. And we've done some workshops since the book came out, and it's so fun. Like couples really love it. And particularly couples that are like, life is hard. You're working all the time. You got kids. Like, when do we get to go back to how it was when we first started dating and we were like having so much fun together? And
I want this.
I've got
what
one
you're
in my
saying
car
right now, it's just like
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, my wife and I were like when we're like, this phrase, I miss us.
Yes.
You know, I miss like just the fun sort
Yes.
of, like she found a picture from like when we were first dating, you know, and you're like, look at them.
Oh my God.
Oh my
it's
gosh,
so cute.
they're so fun.
Yeah, because you just have all this time to have fun because you don't have all this life that you're taking care of and kids and family and house and all that stuff. And so
Yeah.
it's a little way to get back to that and have fun and it's just the two of you. We call it like a 45-minute vacation. Just open this book because it's the same thing. Like when you're on vacation, you can have so much fun with your partner. And it's like, well, we can't be on vacation all the time. So how do we find those little moments throughout our regular lives to have fun and just be silly and connect with each other and be like it was when we first started dating?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. Is there another one out there? Have you ever seen an improv book for dating? Or
No.
like,
No.
It's not even for dating. No, it's an improv book for
For
relationships.
couples,
Yeah.
And so much of what I learned, like writing this book, is like I didn't realize how much improv I used in my relationship with my husband, but I was like, oh man, I think the reason why I've got such a good marriage is because we're both improvisers and we've been doing the things that you do in improv, like listening and saying yes and supporting each other's ideas, and it made us such like a strong couple. And I was like, oh, that's all stuff I learned doing improv. And so writing that out and kind of giving that to couples that aren't improvisers has been really cool.
That's so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
That's great. So you got the book, you got the podcast you're doing. Anything else on the horizon that you're getting into?
Well, for people in Atlanta, I've got a stage show that's happening right now. I do another character called Viviana Vardo, and she hosts a burlesque night, and I've been doing this since 2017. It's called Viviana Vardo's Famous Sex Party, just for adults, and it's
Really?
like no kids allowed. It's like burlesque and drag and variety, and it's a late night show, and it's insane.
And there's other people? Oh,
Yeah.
wait, okay.
Yeah, so it's a big show that I host. But that show I've been doing for years. Now we're doing a scripted version that is a murder mystery. So it's still burlesque, but there's a murder mystery. And there's drag and variety, and it's immersive, and there's cocktails. It's a whole like insanity.
That sounds so
Yeah,
fun.
it's happening at Dad's Garage, and it's running through the end of June. I'm not sure if this will be out before the end of June, but if you want to come, let me know, and I'll get you guys tickets.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fun to just when I'm thinking about all the things that you've done and all the different ways that you've found to create. That show, what is it again?
Viviana Vardo's Famous Sex Party.
Viviana Vardo's Famous Sex Party.
Yep.
From that to a couple's book about improv, what seems like a housewife who works in HR with a horrible mouth, who's really strong, who all of these people love so much that they even get tattooed on their body.
Yeah.
You know, and then all the other stuff in between. What a fun, creative journey that you've been on and that you've created.
Yeah.
And
I do get to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's the best part of like the life that there's hard stuff all the time, of course, but like I get to have a lot of fun and I laugh a lot and the people around me laugh a lot. And so it's like pretty great.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
I love it. It's been so good to talk
You
to you.
too. What a treat.
What a fun thing. Oh my gosh, I feel like I want to go to the show. I definitely want the book. When you
Yeah.
were talking about the book, I mean, everything you were saying
Yeah.
is so, that's all of that. I'm so intrigued by all of it. It's so fun. You've got such a fun energy too. And I think that's so much of it. It's like your energy is just like when I first met you, and now this is the second time we're meeting, I think there's something to it.
Okay.
I think there's a reason why all of these things have transpired in your life, and
Yeah.
and there you have this essence to come back to that. You have
Yeah.
an essence where it's just fun to be around.
Thanks. It's nice to
Yeah.
know that it's not just all random and I got lucky. You know, that it's like you're here for a reason.
Well, we can, some people, they can look at it however they want,
Yeah.
but what I can tell you is it makes sense to me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for hanging out.
It's been a treat.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, Amber Nash.
Yay. Thanks, guys.